So many people are afraid of difficulties in their lives. Of course, everyone wants to enjoy their life and everything is fine, but what if obstacles get in the way of their happiness? How will they behave in that situation? Will they take on the burden of responsibility, or will they simply abandon the difficult path and choose the easier one? One thing is for sure, everyone has their own path, and only the person who chooses it has the right to decide for themselves whether they are willing to take on difficulties or decide to live for their own pleasure without thinking about others. Our story today is about a woman who had a very difficult choice to make, but she refused the responsibility and chose a more convenient way. And I will tell you how this turned out. Let's get started. Natalia spent her entire pregnancy in anticipation of happiness. She attended every examination, received every test, led a healthy lifestyle, and in general, everything was fine. The pregnancy proceeded without complications, and at the appointed time, she collected her bags that were prepared in advance and went to the hospital. The birth went very quickly. The nurses were even surprised, as this was a rather unusual phenomenon for a firstborn. It was so easy and quick to give birth. But when Natalia's daughter was born, the doctors looked at each other in a strange way. The baby was taken to be weighed, and Natalia anticipated taking her home. But instead of bringing the baby to her mother, another doctor entered the room, a psychologist. He asked Natalia about her life, whether she had more children, with whom she lived, and what kind of relationship she had with her husband. The girl was surprised by these questions, and she, while answering, looked towards the table on which her baby was lying, with doctors scurrying around her. After the psychologist asked Natalia all his questions, he carefully told her that her daughter was born with some deviations, that she had impaired motor functions and problems with a leg, and if it could be saved, she would have a limp all her life. Then Natalia was asked a very serious question, whether she was ready to take responsibility for such a sick child, because there would be numerous surgeries and rehabilitation ahead, and there was no guarantee that the child could be fully cured. Natalia asked to hold her daughter. The baby was brought to her and placed on her chest. The girl gazed at the small face of her newborn daughter. Then Natalia gave her back to the doctor and said that she could not care for a disabled child. After spending 3 days in the hospital, she went home alone. She was greeted by her joyful husband and mother, who did not know anything. They were only told that Natalia had given birth to a daughter, but the doctors left it up to Natalia to tell the rest. Natalia indicated they didn't need the burden, let the state take care of her. She said this with a straight face, as if nothing had happened. Her family was dumbfounded by the terrible news. They did not expect such a cold attitude. She did not even shed a single tear for her abandoned daughter. Natalia's husband Michael repeatedly tried to start a conversation about the need to take their daughter home before it was too late, but Natalia was relentless. It was as if something had changed in her, and she did not even want to talk about it. Then Michael just packed up his things and left. He could not live with a woman who was able to leave their child in the hospital without even consulting him. Meanwhile, in the maternity ward, they were already preparing the baby for the children's hospital first, and then to the baby's new home. Of course, the best option for the girl was to find a foster family that could take care of her, but at such short notice, it was almost impossible, especially for a disabled child. In the morning, Michael came with his mother with a firm intention to take his daughter home. The doctors, who had seen such momentary impulses from fathers before, listed all of the baby's diseases, told him about all the operations that she had to face, and about the long period of rehabilitation. They also listed all the documents that needed to be collected as soon as possible, and a genetic analysis to establish paternity. Michael asked for time to collect the necessary documents. The medical workers gave the man a week to get ready, but deep down they figured he wouldn't come back. They were surprised when, on the scheduled day, the man arrived with his mother in a car decorated with balloons, and in his hands he held a folder with all the necessary documents, as well as flowers, candy, and champagne for the medical personnel. He thought it would be nice to give gifts to those who cared for his child. The doctors wondered how the young man was going to raise a sick child alone, but the man replied that his mother supported him and was ready to provide him with all kinds of assistance, that she could not sleep knowing that her own granddaughter was lying in someone else's bed. On that day, they took the baby home, and a series of endless hospitalizations, operations, and rehabilitation began. At first, the girl underwent several operations on her leg so that in the future she would be able to walk without a limp. Then, when she grew stronger, they began active treatment of her other conditions. And so, day after day, month after month, by the age of 7, they managed to put her on her feet and even enroll her in school. Natalia, meanwhile, not grieving for her little daughter, met another man. They started a relationship very quickly and soon got married. Natalia did not tell her new husband about her first pregnancy and that she had a daughter somewhere. She decided to start a new life from scratch, as if everything that had happened before didn't matter. Sometimes she thought about the fact that somewhere now in an orphanage there was a girl who may look like her, but Natalia did not even think of taking her home or even going to visit her. One fall, she and her new husband were driving past a school, and Natalia looked out of the window at the people passing by. Then her gaze fell on one pair, and her heart ached. She asked her husband to pull over, and she quickly got out. She followed the couple. It was a man who was holding the hand of a 7-year-old girl. He was carrying her school bag while she spoke cheerfully. She recognized Michael. Natalia called him by name, and he stopped and turned around. Natalia quickly approached them, greeted them, and asked how he was doing, then nodded at the girl. "Your daughter?" The man replied dryly, "Yes, mine." Then he told her that he and his daughter were in a hurry, and they left. Natalia stood for a long time looking at them. Something haunted her, either that the man had a daughter so quickly after their divorce, or how much the girl looked like herself. Suddenly, Natalia burst into tears and sobbed as never before in her life. She and her new husband had been officially married for 5 years, but they were unable to have children. She went to many clinics, but the doctor said that she was absolutely healthy. Why she could not get pregnant remained a mystery. Only now did Natalia realize that this was her punishment for leaving her helpless daughter. She never saw Michael again. He and his daughter and mother moved to another city. Natalia's new husband never did figure out why she so often sobbed into her pillow at night. Write in the comments, what do you think about this? And if you enjoyed the story, then be sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, and do not forget to click on the bell icon so as not to miss our new stories.